All right, what is up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, we got to check out how is Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin doing. Okay? And, I do this video not just randomly because I have nothing else, no other videos in mind. I actually did not plan on doing a Charlotte Linlin list, Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin. But I went over to OnePieceTopDecks.com and I checked out the deck list like I do every day. And I noticed... First of all, I noticed OP-06 coming out very soon in the East, over in the East, and OP-05 is coming out pretty soon for us in the West. But when I was checking out what was going on over in the East, I saw this right here. Okay, this Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin over in the East in the OP-05 meta. You have some of the usual suspects on here, obviously. You got Zoro still popping up, a great aggro deck. Sakazuki doing his thing, Enel, Red Purple Luffy, and all kinds of stuff, right? So y'all definitely check out this website if you haven't already, if you're looking for something cool to run in OP-05. Because that, like I said, that is coming out soon for us over here in the West. But I saw this excuse me, I saw this list, 4-0, first place over at a tournament in the East. So of course we had to check this out, guys. Of course we had to check this out. Okay, excuse me. So first and foremost, let me read what the leader does, because, I typically just assume everyone who is watching my videos knows by now what Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin does. But, I know I get a lot of new viewers every now and then, or just people randomly looking for a deck to run. So let me just kind of read what this does here for the new players or the players who aren't certain about it, or who are not sure. So it's a 5,000 power, 4-life, dual-colored leader. That all is very standard. The effect, though, is very expensive, so bear with me here. It's Dawn ×2, when attacking, pay 2, so that's 4 Dawn. Excuse me. That's 2 Dawn attached, and tap 2 when you attack, or rest 2 when you attack, and trash a card from your hand, and you have to have 1 or less life cards. So it's situational, it has a lot of cost involved, but what does it do? Place up to 1 card from the top of your deck at the top of your life area. Okay, so you see what's going on there. Early in the game, this is not very good. Obviously, early in the game, this is just a dead ability. It's a dead effect. However, if we can make it to the late game, notice how big some of these characters are. 8 cost, 9 cost, 10 cost down here. Excuse me. If we can make it to the late game and sit behind enough, decent blockers, we can just gain life permanent. Like, we can just constantly gain 1 life every single turn, right? Y'all see how that works? As long as you have a card to trash, you can gain a life every single turn as long as your life is 1 or less. So that has a lot of potential in the late game. And I have a lot of videos on Black and Yellow Charlotte Linlin. So if you want to check those out, by all means, you'll have some homework to do, because I have a lot of Black and Yellow Charlotte Linlin lists. And I'm probably one of the biggest Black and Yellow Charlotte Linlin enthusiasts in One Piece. Okay, and I don't say that to brag. I'm just saying there's something, I guess there's something wrong with me, right? I can't get enough of this color combination and the ability to gain life and the attrition ward you get into late in the game. I just love it. One more thing I want to talk about before we move on from the leader is this is a Big Mom Pirate. Obviously, this is Charlotte Linlin. This is a Big Mom Pirates type of leader. 4 Emperors doesn't mean much currently at the time we're recording this. Maybe it will in the future. But Big Mom Pirates type does mean something. Okay, so what does that mean? Like, who cares? Well, it's actually really relevant, because you're going to be able to run the character, the 10 cost. You can run the 7 cost too, but that's not leader locked. The 10 cost character is leader locked. Now, technically, you could play this in any yellow deck you want to. However, if your leader is not Big Mom Pirates, you don't get the amazing effect. So, let me run through the list real quick, and then we'll talk about it in more detail. So we're running 4 Borsalinos, 4 4-cost Kuzans, 4 Tashigi, that's 2k counter, 4 Suru, 2k counter, 3 Fukuro, 4 Sabo, 2 one-legged Toy Soldier, 4 of the Charlotte Linlin 10 cost, the 8 cost Katakuri, and Yamato. 4 of each of those. 4 Yamato, 4 Katakuri, 4 Linlin. 4 Gadatsu. This is a new card coming out of OP-05 we're about to talk about. 4 Great Eruption. This is turning out, as the game progresses, this card is becoming better and better, right? But before, it's not that it was ever bad. It's just that black did not have enough support to even justify or warrant running this card as much as it does now. And I mean like back in OP-02, of course. Same thing with Ice Age. The card was good for what it does. Like, it's printed effectively for its cost. But, okay, why would I ever run this became the logic. Well, now we're starting to see reasons to run it. Okay, very, very solid. Excuse me. And then last but not least, this is a new card. 3 of these, 30 million volt Thunderbird. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this. Let me explain how this deck works for those who aren't really aware. And then I'm going to talk about some of the new cards we're seeing in OP-05. Because one thing that I hope to accomplish in talking about Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin, I want to see more players run this leader. I think this leader is seriously underrated. And I mean like insanely underrated. I don't know if it's an S tier leader. Okay, I'm not saying that. Excuse me, at least not yet. But I do think this is, like, if it's not in A tier in OP-05, I think it's actually extremely close, or closer than people want to give it credit for. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. The 4 Borsalinos, the 4 Fukuros, or excuse me, 3 Fukuro, and 4 Sabos, this is for early game. Okay, because this leader is not good in the early game, right? You can't even use it until you have 1 life left, and you can't even use it until you have 4 Dawn. You see what I'm saying? So you want to get to the mid to late game in order to get the full value from this leader's effect. And so that way you can start dropping these incredibly powerful characters that you see here. These 8 cost and up characters. All right? So just huge. Just huge. Now, you have all of these different early blockers, right? You have strong 2K counters with 4 Tashigi, 4 Suru, and 2 one-legged toy soldier. By the way, this is just another 2K counter that black has access to now that can minus cost. Notice what's going on here. -3 cost for the turn. Suru, -2 cost for the turn. Tashigi, -2 cost for the turn. And this is an activate main, by the way, so you can keep using this effect over and over again, assuming she survives. Okay. So very, very powerful interactions going on here, right? Sitting behind very resilient blockers. Borsalino cannot be KO'd by effects on your opponent's turn. Fukuro just can't, period. He can't be KO'd by effects, period. Sabo can't be KO'd by effects for 1 turn. And he draws you 2 cards and trashes you 2 to help you cycle out some of these way bigger cards. So, now, once you make it through the early to mid game, okay, great. Now, we're sitting with we're dropping Charlotte Linlins, we're dropping Yamatos, and Gadatsu and Yamato I'm going to talk more about in a second here. But you're dropping, and then you're dropping Katakuris. So let's talk about it for a second. What happens after you've dropped these cards? There's a specific reason the deck is designed in this way. Notice how there is no 6 cost, there is no 7 cost. There's a few 5 costs in Gadatsu and Sabo, of course, but again, that's just turn, what is that? That's turn 3. Like, that's just turn 3. So it's not like it's not even intended to be super late in the game. Because here's the logic you have to have when piloting this deck. You're going to lose 1 life a turn, if not 2 life a turn. Okay, so in this deck, you want to use your blockers to stop the life gain so that you can stabilize at 1 life. That's why it's important to have all these 4 and 5 cost characters. Because what does that do? That lets you swing with your leader's effect for 7. Remember, you attach 2 and pay 2. So you're swinging for 7. So you'll have 6 Dawn left to work with for the turn. Okay, well then I can follow up with a Borsalino, right? Or I can follow up with a Sabo. Or I can follow up with a Gadatsu, or something along these lines, right? One of these, or Fukuro is a great example as well. And now we're also going to talk about Thunderbird in a second as well. This is also going to let you do some things, right? Okay. Now, as far as removal goes, like, why are we running Great Eruption? Why are we running Ice Age? Well, we got a few reasons for that. Number 1 is you kind of have like a KO curve in this deck. I don't know how else to explain that. You can kind of KO on curve, it seems like. Like, let's just defensively. It's more of a defensive mindset, but I don't know. It's kind of hybrid as well once we get to the bigger characters. Early in the game, you're going to have 30 million volt Thunderbird. This is a 2 cost KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than their life. So this is the exact same wording as this character. On play, KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than their life. So you see what's going on there, right? You're KOing based on their life. Now, it's true, Yamato KOs based on you and your opponent's life combined. So if you both have 2 life, well, that's a 4. That's outstanding, obviously. And it can gain you, and Yamato can gain you a life if you're at 1 or less life. Yamato and Linlin are kind of the stars. I'm just going to tell you right now. Yamato and Linlin are the absolute stars of the deck because they help keep your opponent down. Katakuri is good in his own way, but if I had to cycle between, if I drew 3 here, if I drew a Yamato, a Linlin, and a Katakuri, and I had to cycle one of them, it would always be Katakuri, unless it was a very, very specific situation. In fact, I still want to get rid of Yamato. I'd actually probably, like I said, depending on the situation, I'd probably cycle Linlin before I cycled Yamato, because Yamato allows you to KO one of their characters potentially, and gain the life that Charlotte Linlin gained you, and you have a 9k body. You know, it's and by the way, with her being a 9 cost, you can combo with Great Eruption or Ice Age to get pretty much anything in the game. And I talk about this in one of my other videos. Like I said, or I think I mentioned earlier in this video. You can check out all the different Charlotte Linlin, black and yellow Charlotte Linlin videos I've posted. The Yamato plus Ice Age is basically KOing anything in the game, guys. Especially by the turn you can play her right when you have Tindon. Boom, Ice Age, Yamato, you're KOing anything between like a 7 and a 10 on average, like on turn 5 like that. Just incredible. Okay, so what else? It's got some decent card draw. One thing that black-yellow does suffer from is the card draw is not incredible, but it's also not as bad as people might think, because there is no searcher, right, guys? Like, searching's a big deal in this game. Well, Kuzan is a 4-cost, draw 1. Sabo is a 5-cost, draw 2, trash 2, so cycle 2. And then Great Eruption is a 1-cost, draw 1 with cost reduction built in. It does have that ability. Now, what was I going to say? Oh, Gadatsu and 30 million volt Thunderbird. Let me talk about these before I forget. It kind of just helps you get. You just want to get out of the early game in a good position. Let me just say that right now. Guys, understand what this deck is and what this deck is not. This is not a aggro deck. It is not a mid-range deck at all. It's like, yeah, but what if I get a start where I just go like, you know, Borsalino into Gadatsu, into Katakuri, into Linlin? That's great, but still you need to play it in a full control state of the game. I would not give my opponent cards in hand from attacking life unless I absolutely had to, until I have established full board control. You understand what I'm saying there? So just understand, this is not an aggro list. It's not a mid-range list. Now, bear in mind, sometimes you do have to attack your opponent's life just for pure time constraints, right? Like, it's a simple matter of, okay, I only get, what is it, like anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes in a round? I can't remember. So, okay, we're going to have to get this game going, right? So sometimes you do have to attack life before you'd like to, but you guys get my idea there, hopefully. If you have any questions, just post in the comment section below. But 30 million volt Thunderbird and Gadatsu, they're KOing based off your opponent's life, not yours, your opponent's life. So you want to play these cards as soon as you possibly can and get their value right away. So that way you can, first of all, deal with their board, deal with your opponent's board, and move into the late game where you can start dropping your Katakuris, your Yamatos, and your Charlotte Linlins. So just incredible. And like we talked about, 12 8-cost and higher characters. There's no counter on these cards, guys. Same thing with these. Notice this. These got 9 events, 12 leaders, or bosses, you know, like boss characters. So 12 plus 9, that's 21 cards that don't have counters on them, and then plus 4 more from Kuzan. Half of his deck does not have counter power. So that's why it's important to have cards like Sabo in here to do some cycling early in the game, just so you can make it to the late game. You see what's going on here? So yeah. Real quick, I do want to talk. I wish it said who, which decks this person beat, but I'll say this: I think this deck has a pretty good matchup against most of the decks in OP-05. Like, when I look at this list right here, I'm not afraid. Well, I don't know how this list runs. I'll have to do some playtesting. But the list that I'm running currently, I'm not afraid of Zoro at all. In fact, Zoro is basically a free win for a black-yellow Charlotte Linlin list. Blue-black Sokka. I'm not saying it can't lose. Any deck can lose to any deck, obviously, especially depending on the pirate, depending on pulls, depending on who goes first. There's factors involved. But let me just say it like this. I don't think Zoro is an unfavorable matchup for black-yellow Linlin. I've done a little bit of testing on the sim against blue-black Sakazuki, and I can beat it. but it's not easy. I would consider this a 50-50 matchup, even with all the bottom decking that it has. They can only bottom deck so many of your 8+ cost characters, as long as you don't let them have Kuzans and things like this, right? The 4-cost Kuzan. They can only bottom deck so many black yellow Charlotte Linlins. You see what I'm saying? Or 10-cost Linlins. Inel, I think, is just a 50-50 matchup. At least from my experience, it feels very 50-50. They're operating on the same premise as we are. Like, just to click on this random Inel list here. You know, they're running the Yamatos, they're running the Katakuris, but we have the advantage. They can only run the 7-cost Linlin because their leader is Sky Island type, not Big Mom Pirates type. So we actually get the advantage of having the 10-cost Linlin over them. Very nice. And this list, in fact, that we just randomly clicked on isn't even running Inel. But that's another consideration we need to think about, is running Inel. Okay, but anyway, Red Purple Luffy, I think, is pretty favorable for us, as long as they don't just get the most incredible, the most insane pool that you could possibly get. And in fact, the bigger that this deck curves out, probably the better for us. These are the cards that scare us early, right? We don't want unblockables. We don't want to have to deal with unblockables. That's why we run so many blockers in the list. Like, I don't care that they have Queen. I barely even care about something like this. This kind of slows them down, actually, and helps us get back in the game. Because you know how it is. With these leaders, they're trying to get you down to 0 life. So that way, okay, I can just, like, inch out a victory next turn because you just simply won't have enough to block a 15k swing or something like that. Well, with us, it's like, well, no, you can't, because we're going to gain a life every turn. Like, I promise you, and that is the strength, by the way. That is the strength of Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin, is you are going to gain a life every turn. Okay, and you have to build the deck, and you have to build your deck and your strategy around that premise, around this idea that I am going to gain a life every single turn, no matter what. No matter what, I have to gain a life every single turn, or I just I'm going to stall. My deck's going to stall out. Okay. But yeah, I think against everything in the format, Sakazuki's big right now in the format. There's not really many Zoros that I've seen. So Sakazuki, Inel, and Red Purple Luffy seem to be like, and even Red Purple Law, they seem to be the decks to deal with right now. And honestly, I'm going to say we have a pretty favorable matchup into all of these. The only list that will become almost impossible for us is a list like Blue-Black Sakazuki that goes more into the mid and late game. I randomly clicked on this list. Not so much this one. I'm talking about a deck that runs, basically goes Borsalino into Mihawk into Kaido, 10-cost Kaido. A mid-range Sakazuki list, like what we saw in the very beginning of the OP-05 meta, when Sakazuki first came out, before the whole Navy version came out and was established. That mid-range variant that's very similar to Crocodile, the mono blue Crocodile, that list is very, very hard to deal with for us, guys. It just is. It just simply is. So if you have a lot of blue in your format, like wherever you are, wherever you play at your local game shop, if you notice that blue is a big color there, this list is probably not for you. I'm just going to be honest. I've got a bunch of different... Let me see. Let me get back to my channel real quick. Like on my channel here, let me just go to videos. Like, okay, I think about 2 weeks ago, yeah, here's a black-yellow list right here we talked about, and we went, in this video I go over decks that are winning an OP-04 that are black-yellow Charlotte Linlin. And then you go all the way down a little further. I do it about once every 2 weeks, to be honest, guys. But this list as well, where I talk about a list that worked really well for me with a black-yellow even curve. And you go down further. I did a little series here. I might have missed one. I feel like I missed one. Here's a black-yellow Charlotte Linlin Store Championship. I went 3-1, beating 2 Zoros with that list, but I lost to Whitebeard. So that's another thing. I don't know exactly how the new meta will be over here. Because remember, guys, in the West and in the East, number one, there's restriction lists, and there's just a style difference. In the West, Whitebeard just never, ever went away. But over here in the East, he's kind of gone. Like, yeah, we see showings here and there, and it's still a very strong deck. But one thing that Whitebeard does really hurt black-yellow Charlotte Linlin. This is one of the decks that I don't want to say I fear the most. I'd rather go against this than Crocodile. That's just me personally, because blue just bounces everything I play, and I can't establish a board to hide behind my blockers. It just says, no, you're not going to do that. So then they can outvalue me in the end. And Blue-Black Sakazuki is similar to that, but not quite, because the characters are small enough to deal with. And that's what I was saying, is if they start going mid-range to late game, like with, you know, Kaidos like this and Borsalinos, Mihawks, then it will become more of an issue for us, is establishing that huge body. But the lower to the ground version of Sakazuki, that's like, let me see, is this one? I'm not sure, guys. Like I said, I'm just kind of clicking around seeing. No, see, now this one's a nightmare right here. This has got the Borsalino into Mihawk curve, maybe potentially. I'm not really as scared about this Kaido. You know, it's hard to explain, but yes, this could get them back in the game by drawing them 4 cards, but that will give me 1 entire turn to set up, which is huge. That's actually huge for us. But playing, if they have a game where they just go, you know, even just Sabo turn 3, turn 4 Borsalino, turn 5 Mihawk, oof, that's gonna be brutal. It's just so hard to deal with. And the same idea is true with Whitebeard, right? I just clicked on a random list here. If they can go Luffy, Ace, Newgate, I mean, that's just, it's brutal. It's really brutal to deal with. So, all right, guys, that's about it. If you got any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below. What do you think about Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin in OP-05? Can it make it? I mean, clearly, it did go 4-0 in a tournament. I don't know how large this tournament was. It doesn't specify. But if the deck list went 4-0 as opposed to 3-0, that means it was probably a 20-plus player tournament. It's probably around 16 to 20 player tournament, somewhere around there. But yeah, this list looks very clean. And yeah, it's true. There isn't a whole lot we get from OP-05, but we do get One-Legged Toy Soldier. We do get Gadatsu. We do get 30 million Volt Thunderbird. And 2 cards that are not in this list that I have seen people mess with elsewhere in Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin is the 4-cost Rebecca. I'll bring that up while we're talking about it. The 4-cost Rebecca and Manshuri. Here we go. This is the Rebecca I was talking about. This is I think I've seen a list, and I did a video on I did do a video talking about a list that ran this, and it did very well. And on turn 8, or excuse me, 8 Dawn, I always do that. When the player had 8 Dawn, who was running the Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin list, it went, okay, play Rebecca, which is a 4-cost blocker, right? It's a 4-cost blocker, so that's fine. And then it snagged a Borsalino out of the trash, and then he played that with the remaining 4 Dawn he had. Now you can't cheat it out with this effect because it's 3 or less, but who cares? It's still, you're paying 4 to get the cards you want out of your trash, right? Imagine, you know, it's almost like a better version of Kuzan for what we're trying to do. Where, okay, it's 4 costs, and it draws you a card. But it doesn't just draw you any card, it draws you the exact card you want from your trash. You know, well, at least that's an eligible card to draw, right? 3 to 7 cost black card. So just very, very strong. Very, very powerful, and it has a 1K counter, and it's a blocker, like I said. So, awesome. We'll go next out of this. All right, guys. Well, like I said, that's about it. If you have any comments, please don't forget to comment in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And, yeah, until next time, guys. Peace.